If everybody will take the seats, please, this is our work session on what we need to know as individuals on using SAP. Let's go around the room and introduce us for the record. Start with you, John.
John Weddleton. Felix Rivera.
Suzanne LaFrance.
SAP Training.
Tim Stewart.
Peterson.
Lincoln Boston.
Dyson.
Eric Croft.
Rose,
Rose Foley.
we'll turn it over to you.
We have Kelly Lewis presenting today.
Good.
Looks like she's all set up.
Assuming all the technology works, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Assembly members. My name is Kelly Lewis. I'm the Director of Organizational Development. After the SAP consultants go away, it's my responsibility to make sure that training continues to be delivered on the SAP system, and I'm excited to show you how you personally will be using the SAP system similar to all of the municipal employees. So today, I have three primary objectives that I want to share with you. I first want to show you how to log into SAP. Secondly, I want to show you how to do some basic navigations through the system. And once we go live, there's 4 specific areas that you'll need to answer questions on. Everybody has to do it. And then finally, I'm going to show you probably the coolest tool that I think the municipality has invested in, which is the U-Perform tool. So I'm going to quickly go through this. My colleague Renee is here from Central Payroll, so she is available to answer specific questions about timekeeping. But let's get into it. You've received handouts. The first one is the slideshow. I will not cover all of the slides because I want to take you right into the live system. But the most important thing that was given to you was this pamphlet. It's known as our Quick Reference Guide, or QRG. The value of this is that if you forget everything I say today, please remember the Quick Reference Guide and hold on to this piece of paper, because it takes you step by step how to do some basic processes. And even if you lose this, I'll show you how to get it again. So the first 2 parts are directly relevant to all municipal employees. That regards the common task in SAP and then updating your personal information. The lower part of the time-related task, as I understand, is not something that the members here will be using, but it's here for your reference. SAP is, as we know, has been a big endeavor for the municipality, and specifically where we're going to be focusing on is the employee self-service. I'm sorry, sir?
He was mumbling, it was him.
Okay.
They were setting.
Just assume we have a computer?
Well, I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards of how we can help you out.
Okay.
All right,
See, before we only paid $9.6 million. This is the additional $80 million to make it work. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to be mindful of time, so. if you
I know.
don't mind, I'll go
Sorry.
forward. No, please, I enjoy the commentary. All right, so the area that everybody in the municipality needs to pay attention to is their personal information. This is where in the ESS model, employee self-service, we will be addressing family members and dependents, bank account information. I don't know about you, but to me it's cool that magically money appears in my account. But if you want to change that, where it goes to, I'll show you how to do that. If you're ever in need of FMLA, there's a place where you can do that. And finally, salary information. The goal of the ESS thing is going to replace a tremendous amount of paper forms that we used to use, and I've worked with the city now for almost 15 years. And when I started 15 years ago, my father lived in Twin Falls, Idaho, and he was my emergency contact. Now I'm seated in employee relations, and every day I pass by all these forms that I can fill out. My dad now lives in Anchorage. Guess where? It still says my emergency contact, Twin Falls. So we are going to ask employees and everybody to update specific information. As what I want to do is take you into the system. This is the old version, but I'll show you real quick what it looks like today from Universe, and then we'll log in. So unfortunately, I have to go over here and speak from the computer, which is not as comfortable, but we'll get right there. Okay. So currently, today, this is what the universe looks like. And you'll see almost every day there's been updates. When you log in to Muniverse, if you do it that way, and I'll also talk about how to get in through muni.org. But employees will be logging in using SAP here, and then they'll be doing the Kava clock to actually do their time entry if they're doing that at the desk. Obviously, these aren't active because it's not Monday yet. So now, let me show you. We are going to go directly into the system. Has anybody seen SAP live at this point in time yet?
A lot of people have, I think.
Guess what? This is it. This is our training environment. The beauty of this is that SAP is a very easy, navigatable program. On everybody's gray line here, you will have the ability to click the home page here and it'll take you back to the beginning. I find that useful because if I get too far into a program, I hate getting lost, so I want to go back home. We are currently in the employee self-service module, and we'll walk through a couple pieces there. But on every one of the gray bars, what I'm circling of SAP Help, if we click on that, if you're in SAP, this will directly link to the UPerform tool, which I'll show you at the very end, which is where a tremendous amount of resources are. You'll notice on here, it doesn't project so great, but there's a black ball with an arrow. What that means is that there is additional information over there. And you'll now notice over here, there's another black ball, and so we can go back and forth. Under my notifications, what I'm circling right now, this is where notifications about SAP will come. So if there's updates that are going or so forth, that's where they'll be communicated. This does not replace email. This doesn't replace any other form of communication. This is just where that comes from. A thing to note about SAP is whenever you see these little arrows, and I always do this, it's the arrows that go like that, that means you can expand. That means there's information behind here. So I'm going to click onto My Services because this is where everybody on the first day is going to have to go. And we're patiently waiting for it to load up, and it did. Hooray. So I should also tell you that what I'm operating in right now is the training environment. So there's no personal data. This is all generic. There's no identifiers here. What I want to share with you is up at the top, you'll notice this bar here. Overview, whatever is blue, that means where you're at. When it's gray, these areas, that means it's like tabs in a folder. I'm going to scroll over. You can scroll over with these arrows. I don't know about you, but sometimes that gets frustrating to me because I don't know how many things there are. I can avoid that frustration by, there's 3 little ellipses right here. And those ellipses, we click down, and that shows us where all of the various tabs are, and you can go directly into your area. What I'm going to touch on right now is personal information. Notice how it took me to that section. Let me expand this just a little bit if it cooperates with me. Nope, it didn't. That's all right. Okay. So what we are doing, since it... Calm down. Sorry.
The toggle bar didn't pop up on the right of the white square. Yeah, it did when you were over. I saw
Right over here?
No, down.
Down?
That was the left.
Other left? Okay.
Right here.
Thank you, Ms. Dombrowski.
Needed something, there was a toggle bar that showed up right there.
Thank you. It seems like every time I
It
deliver
looks like it's sensitive.
Perfect. Lovely. We got to where we needed to be. Okay, one of the advantages of SAP, because there's so much information, is that you can actually create favorites for yourself. You'll notice next to employee profile, there's a grayed out star. What that means is I have an option of making that into a favorite, which will be on my home page. And if I click that, you'll notice it turned into a gold star. If I get tired of using that, I can turn it off and I can undo it. Where we're going today, because this is where all employees will need to go to, is we're going into the personal profile. And this is specific information. Again, this is generic information. There are 4 questions that we're asking all employees to update, including yourselves. when we go live on Monday, goodness, so soon, we want everybody to review their emergency contact information. As I mentioned, I started 15 years ago. Dad was in Twin Falls, now Dad's in Anchorage. My personal information would show Twin Falls, but you'll notice, sorry, let me go back. So I can go back. What you'll notice after each one of these areas where you can do edits is there are little pencils. That means behind the scenes you can make changes to this information. So on day one, we're asking everybody to do one of 4 activities. One is to look at your emergency contacts to make sure it is still the same person that you originally signed up with and the current information is available. You can go ahead and enter into here, and we're just going to say, I'm going to change this to Anchorage real quick. If I could spell right, that would help. Okay, and so what I've learned with working with SAP, I tend to hit the save button here first just to make sure that I've got it right. So I hit save, and it saves the information on the page. You'll notice over here in this upper left-hand corner, it says data was successfully saved. So that's how you know that you've done it correctly. As opposed to having somebody else enter this information for you, you have the power to update your own information. Then save and go back, and you'll notice under my emergency contact that Anchorage is now put in. I know that's not correct for that address, but that's where that is. So on this, if you choose to redirect any money that you receive from the city, you can update your bank information because it has a little pencil after it. It's a really versatile and powerful tool. It will save you time of filling out paperwork. If you have a new family member that joins, perhaps through a marriage or a birth, you can update that information here on your personal profile. You will probably have to turn in some supporting documentation such as a birth certificate or a marriage certificate. All you'll have to do is scan it in, attach it, and then it will go to the appropriate people. It will save time tremendously, and you also will have the affirmation that it's correct. So that's the beauty. Before I proceed, are there any direct questions about SAP?
Any questions? So where do the people get their logins from?
Very good question. Thank you, sir. In your email, it was just passed out. In your email, you should have an email that talks about your employee ID number, and then there was a password that was sent out to every individual employee. You will be required to change that, so it should be, I believe it came from ITD, SAP, I believe that's the name. So
SAP Technology Center came out
that would be
11:45.
correct. Thank you for validating that for me. So you received it.
It's here.
Terrific. So you have a unique identifier. So once you log in, you will have to go ahead. Whoops, sorry. You will need to update that, similar to many passwords that automatically come to you. You'll be forced to automatically change that. Let's see. The other thing that I wanted to make sure to show you is this is the actual login site for SAP. So when you get your password and we're live on Monday, you go to Muniverse, you click onto SAP, the NWBC or NetWeaver browser is what will come up. And you'll notice here the user where it says HCM, that will be where you'll enter your user ID. And for me, my employee ID is 29063. So I would enter that, and then I would enter the password that was emailed to me. So that's how you would do it.
If you want to know what your employee ID at Computer sure is, look on your Muni card, your ID card. It says on there what your employee identification number is. It's on there.
Actually, not to correct you, sir, but I don't believe they're on.
It is on mine. It is on mine.
The old one.
I have an old one, yes. It is on mine.
Yeah. they
So let me
stopped
tell you
yours
some
is
other
paper.
options. So let me tell you some other options of where you can
When I
go
rode
for
up my
those of
horse.
you that don't have it on your ID card. On your pay stubs, that's where your employee ID will be. You can also talk to probably Rose or somebody in your time administrator folks. I know your situation is a little bit different, but I believe somebody with the clerk's office could provide the employee IDs. And worst case, I know the folks in central payroll would be able to provide that as well. So there are options, and you will be able to get in, so I wanted to show you that.
You're welcome to contact me if you need your employee ID number.
Member ID.
Rose, I'm sorry, I just volunteered you. I hope that's all right.
Member ID.
It should be a 5-digit number, so it's not your, it's not your insurance card.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, Rose, I'm used to mine, it's on there.
You're lucky. You're one of the lucky gentlemen.
I'm one of the old people.
I had the same thing for a long time. Not old, better. That's what we are.
Whatever.
Okay. Now, in the interest
I'll
of
get you
time,
later.
Historic.
what I'd like to do is take you to what, if we are in SAP, what you will see is you can click on the SAP Help. That button, so you will cooperate, will take you to UPerform. Now, this is the investment that the city made that I personally think is one of the most valuable assets that we've invested in. This is a central repository where all of the training materials that have been developed over this project will reside. How I think of it is I think of it as a virtual file cabinet. And I want to point out some specific areas. Up here, whoops, sorry. Come back. Okay. You will notice up at the top that there's something in gray. It says projects and up. So for me, I think of it as a gray file cabinet. That's important, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. You'll notice here over the far right-hand side towards the top, what I'm circling, it says Welcome Anonymous Login. There's no requirement for any credentials to get into UPerform. Anybody who's a municipal employee can access this, so you don't need a login, you don't need a password, you can get right into the UPerform function. Now, as I mentioned, I consider this a virtual file cabinet. And in our virtual file cabinet, these areas are drawers that you can pull out. These are the various topical areas where materials are available. We're going to go pull out the drawer for employee self-service, but certainly feel free to go ahead and take a look at any of these other file drawers because they have all of the training materials that are being developed or are in progress for the SAP launch. So we're going to go to SAP self-service. And so I've pulled out the file drawer. You'll notice right here, remember I said these were gray? This is turned blue, meaning up, meaning there's information above. So when you see a blue button, it means you can go up within the file cabinet. How I look at this is 3 different sections in the employee self-service file drawer. Where we are focused on is the employee self-service, and the value of that is these are the folders that are within the file drawer. The very top option is the slide deck. What you're receiving today is a very abbreviated class. This class is usually scheduled to take an hour and a half. I'm trying to do it for you in less than 30 minutes, so that's where we're at. But if you'd like to see the full slide deck, it's available. They will always be on top in the file drawer. Secondly, I had mentioned the quick reference guide. If you lose it for whatever reason, here it is right there. So you can, I misspoke. The first one is the quick reference guide, and the second one is the slide deck. You can open it and drop it onto a printer, and there you go. You've got your aid again. But the real cool thing, and the real value that I think the city is going to get from UPerform, is where we have all of these verbs, where it says add, change, display. What we can do here is we can actually run a simulation. And since we all have to update or validate our emergency contacts, we'll take a quick look at this one. What we know about adult learners is that some people do really well reading. They love to read manuals, and that's how they consume knowledge. And you can do that within UPerform. You'll notice over here to the right where it says simulation, there's a drop-down menu here, and there's several different options. Please cooperate. And you'll notice the XTML, you can use those to put an actual link on your computer, and then you'll be able to access the information in a PDF format. If you want to print off the work instructions for this functionality of change address or emergency contacts, you can go ahead and go to the work instructions. It will print it out in a PDF format, and you can print it. But let me show you the thing that I think is the most cool. I'm a visual learner, and UPerform provides for that. So we're going to go starting to the simulation. It takes just a minute, and oh no, don't do that to me, baby. There we go. No. Here, I wanted to show you this awesome tool, and it will work, I promise. There it is. So again, this is similar to what we saw in the website. There's 3 things that are important about UPerform. The yellow bubbles that you'll see on each one of these pages describes what the simulation is about. You'll notice that these green balls here, they will say that there's an action required. The most common error that people will do is they'll go to this green bar and they'll take their mouse and they'll click on it over and over again. It says click, right? Should make a change. It doesn't. What you'll want to do to advance the simulation is actually go to the red square here, and I'll do that. And lo and behold, it advances through the simulation. As we learned, the expand button is there, so I'm going to click that. And we were in the personal information. I'm clicking the red button here, personal profile. So this is leading me through step by step. And as I discussed, when you see in pencil, it means you can enter information. This is the descriptive area here. Again, if I sit here and I click on this, and I can't tell you how many times I've done it, where I'm clicking and going, gosh, it's not making any change. What I need to do is I need to click the red box, and lo and behold, I'm moving. Okay, so for those of you who are of the age that I am, you may remember Chiclets gum. And Chiclets gum is what they call, not gum, but they call chiclets on the very bottom. You'll notice that if I click ahead and make that a chiclet, that'll advance me through the UPerform. Or if I go, gosh, I really forgot something, I can move back and forth really easily through this simulation. I find that to be helpful. Other people like to use arrows, so these are the arrows here that will advance you through as well. So there's lots of ways to move through these steps. Once you reach the end, it will ask, do you want to restart? Do you want to do an end of simulation? Now the beauty of this is that now I've just learned how I can update my emergency contacts. I keep mentioning 4 things that we're asking people to update on September 11th. First of all, is to validate your emergency contacts. The second item is the last beneficiary recipient for your last paycheck. If something, heaven forbid, happens to you, we want to make sure it's going to the correct person. So please validate that that's current and correct. And then 2 other questions we're asking because of federal compliance is military status and ethnicity. So those are the questions that will be required. This is an extremely powerful tool for the city into the future because we will be able to store future updates, any simulations. Come on, Dave, cooperate with me. All right, so I'm going to go up a level, and it will cooperate with me now. There we go. And so you'll notice I'm moving up through the file cabinet. And if I decide, if you're interested, I'm at the very top, so I'm going to look at other drawers and I can pull out other information. So that's how you navigate. Now you may be thinking, I'm sitting at my house. I'd like to be able to access this information. How many of you go on to muni.org and at the very bottom it says for employees?
That's the only way I access it.
Okay, so the good news is on Monday, there will be a button that says SAP. You'll click onto that and it will go back to where we actually had this, and this, you will go in and you will go ahead and log in. And so you will also be able to navigate and move through the SAP environment. I'm at a point where I've covered most of the materials, so do you have any questions at this point?
Questions? Yes, Peter.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So if the bottom of the screen it says employees, so It's gonna say SAP next to where it says employees or something?
It says for employees, you'll click on that, and you know how it opens up? It says email, pay stub. There'll be another one to the far right that'll say SAP access. So you'll click on that third button, and you should be able to access and gain entry as well.
Other questions from assembly members?
So I guess I
Forrest?
misunderstood that. The old buttons for email and pay stub will remain?
Yes, that will stay the same. There'll just be an additional button on the right-hand side that'll say SAP.
Other
I believe
questions
it
from
says
assembly
SAP
members?
portal.
Just on your nice little sheet she gave you, please ignore page 17 of 26. That'll never be approved.
What is it?
Overtime. You're not getting it.
Oh, for
And I also said, mention I have to call
Can we
it
just
my
type in no
colleague
thank
Renee, if you have any specific questions about time. So
Thank you very much for the training. Now we can mark off this block. We've been trained.
if you signed in, I'll consider yourself.
Rose, did we send out the sheet to everybody on the budget hearings when they're coming up?
I'll get that out this afternoon.
Rose is going to send to all of you the budget hearing dates and what the subject is during that time period for the different budget components. Wanted you to know that.
Our
Should
first
be
will be
sending out.
September 29th for an overview, and then October
Hopefully,
20th.
information, the slides and the quick reference guide will help you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want